Greetings. Today is June 21st, 2013, the day of the summer solstice. This video is being created at Stewart Mineral Springs in Mount Shasta. The purpose of this interview is to document our galactic history going back approximately 54 million years with Andrew Bartzis, a galactic historian. Andrew has the unique ability to read the Akashic records. My name is Lance White, and I'm best known for the radio show A Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic at BBS Radio. So let's meet Andrew now and talk to him. Hi, Andrew. How are you?
I'm doing good today. I'm glad you were able to come to the event here.
Oh, yes.
Beautiful, beautiful place here.
Well, it's great to meet you, and I was taken with your information instantly, and so I thought maybe we could start out with your definition of a galactic historian, how you got to read the Akashic records, and we can kind of segue into what's
going on.
Yes, which is what we all want to know.
Well, a galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma. One planet in this part of the galaxy creates karma that's war-based. This planet creates drama that's music-based or soul-based. They create lines of drama. And a planet will generally have a theme. Not all karma is bad. Not all karma is good. Some of it's just in between. A galactic historian goes to each and every line of dramatic karma and lives in soul family with everyone, so they see the big picture of all of the karma that's going on in a local part of the universe. What makes it very difficult is you have to have true love with someone in that soul family in each and every time. So the truth about the galactic historian is to become one, you have to go to all of the worlds, live in all their incarnation and reincarnation cycles, and be soul family to each one. When our solar system was built from the ground up to clear out the karmic pollution of the universe, everyone was put here, and I had already lived the lifetimes. There were 4 people ahead of me in this world that had the opportunity to say yes. They said no. When it came to my turn, I said yes. There's 2 people beyond me that can say yes or no if it comes to their turn. That's the basic definition of the galactic historian. Being soul family to everyone means I've traveled a lot. I'm old.
I guess so. Now, when did you first start to gain an understanding of the Akashic records, and how does that work for you, and how has that evolved?
When I was still an innocent little kid, I was doing it then, but nowhere near at the power levels that I do now, or the ability now. When I was 9 years old, my dad took me to a baseball game at Cleveland Stadium. Bottom of the 9th inning, tied game, somebody hits a home run, the whole stadium cheers. At that point, I downloaded all the Akashic records of everyone that was there. It's 83,000 plus people. Even people miles away from the stadium. At that point, I knew I was different. I searched my mind. What was Atlantis? What was Lemuria? What was Decanara? Speaking in soul languages and not being able to communicate with this to my family, they just wouldn't understand. Where do you begin to even say that to anyone? I love my family. They're great people, and every family has a little dysfunction in it. But I knew I couldn't say anything. Just knew it. There was a 2-week period where there were guides from Hollow Earth that came there and helped me redeposit the information from my brain into my cellular memory. And your cellular memory is literally in your skeletal energy. It's not in your muscular factor. Even though we as species today use our skin to store imagery or messages, and we shouldn't, it should all be within our cellular memory of our skeletal structure.
So now we're in the process of learning about Earth's history, and apparently there's been quite a lot of shenanigans and playing with timelines and so on and so forth. Most of us are familiar with the basic story that's come through various channels and who some of the players are. But you're going to take us back starting about, what,
52 million to 54 million. Well, we lost 2 million years of history when Earth wasn't in this universe anymore.
Okay, what happened?
It was a big prize that a galactic sentience of another universe said, I want to play in this game for a little while. And it came into our universe and said, I'm taking this. And there wasn't enough powerful entities at the time, even the dark guys here, that could stop them. And they put it in another universe for 2 million years and allowed it to seed life in another universe, because that's its original purpose, is to be a galactic seed planet, seeding whole life, DNA wisdom to whole new galaxies. And then Earth got mad, basically gave it the middle finger, and it came back over here and got back into the fold of what was going on here.
So it was able to break loose.
Correct. It is a sentience.
Right, right. Do you have a name for that galactic group?
The universe that it went to?
Right.
We'll just call it the Zalaka.
Okay. Okay.
It doesn't have language, and it is intonation, Zilakwa. That's the best way to describe it. It's not a free will universe.
That we have now.
Correct. We are a 100% free will universe. And free will means we can set up our realities based off of the rules that we create in it.
Okay, but our free will has been co-opted over those millions of years.
Correct.
Okay, so then who was next to interfere with the free will of the planet?
Well, Earth had drama while it was being created. Drama is natural. Drama can be, I don't like you because your technology is better than mine, my religion is better than yours. People have ego even at the higher dimensions. It just functions differently. When karma reaches the point where a sentient species can reach out several galaxies beyond their home planet, you can create karmic pollution to newer planets or younger planets. Earth was one of those that brought good pollution and bad pollution to thousands of worlds. Earth, when it was first rolled out as a seventh dimensional galactic seed planet, its purpose was to have these chakras on its planet that are called wombs, W-O-M-B, like a woman's womb. There, anyone that lived above the womb chakra, their sentience would be influenced to create DNA wisdom through interbreeding with other species, through scientific or spiritual creations. Thus, Lemuria and Atlantis, where the societies returned to Earth's original purpose while it was in a light part of space where sentience was expanded, knowing full well that they would come into the denser and denser part, and the breeding of souls that were coming in was outweighing them, because the invasion we have is a spiritual invasion. It's always been that way. The dark forces have always known, technologically wise, they can't win. But they figured out a way to manifest energy bodies and force incarnate souls into our world that aren't soul family with us, and to the point they created enough breeding population to make an anchor population for more and more to come in at a faster rate than the good.
Okay. Does some of that include using astral shells that have not crossed over?
Correct.
Okay.
And the walk-in rules and all that.
So it's basically reanimating something that has been that's probably has a negative aspect to it to begin with. So that takes us to what, about?
We'll go 51 million years.
Okay.
51 million years. Earth had already been ripped out of its home galaxy. The original dark forces that invaded from the war galaxy came here and saw Earth and said, that's the prize of the prize of the prize. All these other little planets were nothing to them. So they captured Earth through a spiritual invasion, outbred the people there by creating more corrupted souls that caused political devastation, land devastation, and dramatic wars with other places, until finally there was a core group of dark beings who took over the chakra system and the unity consciousness drive of Earth, and then teleported it against its will to another galaxy. That first teleportation greatly injured Earth. It was near dead. And Earth gave out a cry to the universe and beyond, I need help. Massive migrations from the 7 universes ascended on Earth and overbred the dark forces there, kicking them off, but they still had the first interlinking of the anchor societies there. When Earth began to go through its healing process, that would essentially be the dinosaur age.
Okay.
But sentience had been removed from the surface, but brought into an ethereal realm. so that the surface, the surface that we live on, this is the graduating timeline. If you're here to become a higher dimensional soul, to interfunction with Earth, or to go out and explore space with your consciousness, you have to be on the graduating timeline. Earth has 3 timelines: above, below, center.
Okay.
Center is the graduating timeline.
Okay.
Okay. So at this point, Earth kicked off its first. They reinforced the energies of Earth. And they said, we know the spiritual invasion's coming, so this begins the first process of creating pyramids. The first process of creating pyramids was to amplify the consciousness of Earth after the damaging effect of being ripped out of its original galaxy. So the pyramids were placed on the chakra points, placed on the crustal points, enforced the ability for the local sentients to create local realities, and made a grid that was reinforced so that any entity coming in had to go through a filter to determine if it can actually make spiritual contracts with Earth sentients to have sentient kind on the graduating timeline. At that point, the dark guys had spread to a few thousand other worlds and began dominating and controlling and mastering the system of domination control on very low-end species. That's where they discovered if they're ever going to take Earth, they knew that in the galactic rotation, Earth would go through very light to very dark, to very dense spots. And in that dense spots is the place that they could mass spiritually invade that place and then lower the consciousness level of the surface people by influencing the DNA, influencing the soul families, influencing the soul contracts, and literally getting us at every stage of the game and removing how we would naturally live with our planet.
So, in other words, we're disconnected from our ability to communicate and commune and source.
Correct.
So, now, when did that begin? So this goes back to the pyramids as well, right?
Well, there's 9 layers of pyramids. Earth has been moved 12 times.
Wow.
Captured 12 times.
Wow.
There are 9 layers of fortifications on the astral world. There's no other planet in the universe, or 3 other universes, that's been fortified that much.
Wow.
So, you're in a situation where the dark guys capture it, fortify it. The light guys recapture it, fortify it. So on and so forth, until finally the fortification grid and the quarantine of the good guys out there is literally the hindrance of what we have, plus the multidimensional beings that are within us, manipulating drama and manipulating spiritual contracts so that when unity consciousness comes, they can program their propaganda of thousands of years will come to fruition. We're a race with amnesia, and we're a race held hostage, in a perfect position for entities that want to take the more powerful people and take them somewhere else by their own belief.
Wow. So we're entering another one of those periods of time, like a harvest period, so to speak, or ascension period.
We're ascension period. We're going out of a very dense part and going into a very light part. There's 66 planets in our solar system. The vast majority of them are in the light part of space, and Earth and Mars are stuck in the dense part, anchored by the sleeping people that haven't awoken to their consciousness. They're the ones anchoring us there now.
And there are bases on Mars and
all over.
Right, everywhere.
I call this world and this solar system the Galactic Antiques Roadshow, because the vast majority of species that got lured into their drama, we're here to salvage the thousands or millions of ships that are littering our solar system from the numerous wars over and over and over again.
Wow. Well, no. So, how do we navigate this time? How do we?
Let's look at the 50 million year concept.
Okay.
When time wars began, that's the tricky thing. 480,000 years ago is when the actual time wars began. But time, we're on a planet with 3 timelines. They're only going after the graduating timeline in the beginning.
Okay.
So the first set of multidimensional beings that had incarnated here became 40% of our breeding population. 15 beings equaled 40% of humanity. At that point, it was nearly 70 billion people on this world. That's a lot of them.
Wow.
That's how they got soul family status with everyone. They
Wow.
then brought in dimensional technology that was meant for vessels only and installed it on Earth so that they could take one continent out of a timeline and put it back into a deep, distant timeline, one by one by one by one by one, so they can get to the point to create what's called the first species of Earth. There are 72 first species of Earth because every time Earth was recaptured, they tried to re-erase the timelines. But once you have sentience that's born, you can't erase the sentience, and Earth has to adopt that as a first species.
Huh.
So the Time Wars are all about creating the first sentience. Well, we have 72 first species now.
Wow.
And as many as 6,000 different refugee species who've come to live on our world because their worlds are being decimated or destroyed.
Wow.
And Earth has always been this point where souls migrate to it, they migrate away. I call it like, the ducks in the winter, you got, the massive flowing flows of ducks going that way. But Earth is this migration center because it has a graduation timeline that's very impressive. You have 100% free will here, and you come in with a blank mind. It's very important. There are other worlds that you remember all of your past lives.
Mm.
You speak by the time you're 4 months old. We go through this growing process. That's cherished in other worlds.
Huh. Well, it seems like it could also be a disability if you're being programmed and manipulated
taken over,
and,
right.
and taken over, and then there's that element of soul contracts, which you mentioned, that where as the soul comes in, it can be bounced, which is one way of shoving us off of our path. And another one is adding fine print or adding
Exactly.
So, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it started in Lemuria. Lemuria was a really high consciousness. Earth was its true seventh dimensional status. It was creating DNA, and it was inviting other species to come live here for a while so that they could live on above these womb chakras and create DNA and then take it to a new world in unity to this new world. They would never force bring DNA to a new world. Earth is also capable of psychically transporting the DNA wisdom that's created in these womb chakras to a blank Akashic record planet that's about to invite its first group of souls to come and live on it. That's its purpose. During Lemurian times, there were air cities all over, there were ground cities, and there were as many as 5,000 different species that came here to work with Earth to create DNA to spread. Well, the dark guys had gotten their little fingers in there and started creating their drama within inside, and as the society began to build to its peak, factions formed in it. You had spiritual factions, you had scientific factions, you had no technology factions, high technology factions, and these factions began the separation, and the separation is what took Earth from a seventh dimensional status to a sixth dimensional. So it literally lost a whole quotient of its exponential energy. The separation caused a mass migration away. Earth was left undefended. It was captured. That's the first fall of Lemuria. The multidimensional beings who were here orchestrated that capture, because they had gotten in. The new beings that came to take over Earth reanimated Lemuria with the leftover refugee population here, instilled domination and control, and began an incarnation pattern to bring in more of the kinds that they wanted from the other worlds that were dominated and controlled. At this point, the good guys of the rest of the universe said, we have to do something about this. But there was a huge debate among the Ascended Masters, the philosophers. There's a galactic sentience that created war in another galaxy, and that galactic sentience allowed it to come here. This was known as the first mistake of the Prime Creator. The galaxy we were in wasn't ready for war. It wasn't set up for war, but it's here now. So they took way too long to figure out a result for it. At that point, many species began taking up war to defend themselves. It was just natural. That creates the first lines of drama. Mars. Mars is one of those planets that's high technology, very low spirituality when it was first in existence. It was a commerce center, but it turned commerce into military-industrial complex. When Mars and Earth began their first lines of drama, Earth needed technology to support the defense and fortification process. That's how Mars and Earth got interlinked before they got brought into this solar system. Venus was a high philosophical society with thousands of individual realities where they invited species to come and share philosophy, share sentience. Venus as a planet has got the twin flame of the feminine energy to it for a reason, so it can support all of that consciousness of other worlds there. Earth itself, during these timeline wars, when we look at the section at 480,000 to 420,000 years ago, is when all the big players of the 2,300 primary soul families, 2,200 primary soul families and 2,300 different species. So there's just a little difference. Soul families breed and create species, and then there's the actual number of species. All of them were in competition to make Earth theirs. And all of them had time travel technology. All of them had interdimensional vessels.
Wow.
All of them had explored the universe. And they were all in competition to get to make that first species.
Wow.
So that's what puts us in the setup of the time wars. We look at Earth as, I look at Earth before the timelines were unified, as just this giant ball of mess.
Yeah.
And this giant ball of mess, you could never know what was really being done. One person would do something that would counteract this. Somebody would do something to counteract this. Somebody would create 5,000 timelines and only do one important thing on one timeline, and it would take you forever to figure it out. So that's how that all works. Lemuria first fell, recaptured. Lemuria's rise again. The light's in that. As the light's in it, it tries to unravel all these timelines. Earth is stuck with new first species on it. Those species need to graduate and migrate off this world. Constant graduation, migration, remigration back here. A lot of the dark worlds were migrating here now. So we get to the second fall of Lemuria. At this point, Lemuria understands the war's loss. They get it. They dimensionally understand it. But they also know that deep in the future, they're going to come to a point where it's going to go from extremely dense, extremely open to extremely dense, to extremely open to extremely dense. So they began leapfrogging in time with a third to three-quarters of their population and bringing their air cities to the future to free the future people from the past. That's where they began defending their world on the central graduation timeline. The above timelines is where the high-dimensional entities can come in and act as guides or ascended masters. The lower timeline is where younger spirits or animal spirits can live on Earth and then graduate into having human bodies. They're not worried about the above and below. They're worried about the graduation timeline. That's where the majority of these timeline wars are. So you have any questions about that?
Have there been graduations over the...
There hasn't been a graduating class in 410,000 years.
So the normal process would be for there to be a continual evolution and graduation.
Correct.
So that's an organic process that would ordinarily occur.
Natural.
Right. And so all of these time wars and the dark have corrupted the incarnation process, and so what we have is people are not necessarily ascending and leaving.
They're stuck in a reincarnation.
Reincarnating over and over, and how they just get it to the astral plane, and they basically have a breather, and then they're sent right back. Are there pools of souls as well where they're genericized and then just like divvied off, and then basically programmed for whatever?
And there are whole migrations of souls that aren't allowed to incarnate here and are stuck in our astral world, and literally can't go back until they've had a lifetime here.
Ooh.
So our astral worlds are overflowing with all these things that are just stuck.
Yeah. Does that relate in any way to the demonic forces?
Yeah, because so many of those entities up there get impatient.
Mad.
Impatient, mad.
Yeah.
And some of them are dark entities that are, they've missed their cue too. They wanted to come in and get in the game, and they wanted to kick out the 15 beings, but they can't. They're stuck.
Wow.
It's their game.
Wow.